my name's Gabriella Lombana. I play for the Aviators and I play defensive back and striker.
Hi, I'm Coach Lisette Lombana and I coach the Aviators.
Hi, I'm Kaylee Manzi. I play for FC Copa and I play striker and other things.
Hi, I'm Coach Alexis Tolles and I'm the girls coach at FC Copa.
Hi, my name is Mia Lombana. I play for the Aviators and I'm a goalkeeper.
It would just make me a little bit more happier knowing that I was able to make it to professional leagues, you know, so.
I play soccer because I started probably when I was around like 2. I played for fun on like a team that like helped you get to be better at it, and then I ended up playing like rec, and then me and my sister got asked to play travel, and I kind of just like always enjoyed it, and it just made me like happy that I didn't care if I had like a busy schedule. It was like more of like a fun thing.
I like it because you get a lot of support from your teammates even when you're feeling down or you do something bad.
I started coaching because they needed coaches. Yeah, and I played in college, but a different sport, and I said, you know what, let me be a female leader for the kids, and they love it, so I love it more.
When I was younger, I tried a lot of other sports, and only soccer was the one I actually could really play.
I think when I was younger, I played soccer because I was always trying to figure out why my sisters were like out of the house and I was stuck in the house all the time. I think as I picked it up and I kept going, it was giving me kind of the sense of self. And then I think as a coach, I think when you grow up being coached by men, it's a different environment. And I think when I started to coach, I just kind of told myself like I always wanted a me, like a woman to look at, someone to be inspired by. So I think that's why I coached. And I think also my summer coach asked me if I wanted a job, so I took it.
I think for me, when I was a kid, there was no girls teams of anything, so I had to play with the boys, and then I had to sit. They wouldn't play me. I remember crying and it was a mom who like stepped up and she was like, why isn't she playing? And so then I realized, you know what? I want my daughters and their friends to have a female to look up to that has a clue about how to coach and understands that we shouldn't order white shorts and we have to wear certain things a certain way and we have to be coached a little differently. You know, and I work with a great team of people in our town who do a great job, but sometimes they need a little reminder, you know?
Yeah, and I think even growing up, like when someone asks you like, oh, what soccer player like were you inspired by? Like you're talking about a male soccer player. And when you did talk about females, they were part of other sports, you know, like Serena Williams. I was young enough for Gabby Douglas, so I think having that switchover is nice.
I told the girls all the time, they're growing up at the best time. Yes. There's so many opportunities for females to play whatever sport, in charge of whatever company. It's a different world now.
Yeah, you have major female athletes owning sports clubs, owning a portion of a team, being a co-owner, and I think that's a huge inspiration. I would say in regards to kind of giving that confidence to the players, I think it's hard. I think I go through a bunch of times where I ask myself like, am I doing enough? Am I doing too much? Am I gonna scare them off? Are they gonna wanna do this next year? And she could probably vouch for me, but I feel like the only space that I'm trying to provide for them is a space to just be a girl. Like it's okay to be a girl. It's okay to have a day where like, don't talk to me. My hair didn't slick down right today. I don't like the way my lashes look. My nails are cracked. And kind of coming to practice and like letting that out on the field, or coming to practice and being like, hey, I just need a day to like kind of be on the quieter side, and kind of giving them the opportunity. I think growing up with male coaches, it was hard to explain yourself, like specifically with like your womanhood and like being like, I don't feel good. And your coach being like, okay, well, leave it at the door. And it's like, no, I don't feel good because my stomach hurts and I feel like I'm gonna pass out. So kind of just giving them that space to just like be a girl and be the player that they are, not only just down to soccer, but you know, the person that they are outside of it.
Yeah, I was very fortunate that in college I had a lot of female Hall of Fame coaches. Wow. So I learned there is a different way to coach. And with the kids, you know, we've had kids who come and they're just not in the mood today. And they're okay to go sit down. Sometimes they're not feeling good. Sometimes it's been a bad day. Sometimes it's just a lot of pressure for them. And I think it's, like you said, it's important to understand that and to let them say, hey, I'm good, I need a little break. You know, you could see in the faces, right? When it's having a bad day at school and then you come on the field and And coming from coaches that were like, yeah, come on, you gotta go, and there's no excuse, and we gotta get this done, and it's a different way to coach. And I think what you said about how far do we push, I push.
Yeah.
I push. And then I go based on how they react. Some of them, a few once in a while, coach, this is crazy, but most of the time, everybody wants to go.
Yeah.
And I think that's what happens is, sometimes when you have people coaching girls, I think they almost have a ceiling for girls, that girls can't go higher than this. And I think by coming with the past that I've had, know that they could reach so high and really pushing them. But pushing them with gentle hands, I think is the best thing I could say.
Yeah, I think as a girl, it's better to have a woman as a coach because they understand and they could relate to what you might be going through.
Yeah, I agree. And I really grew up with male coaches, so as soon as I met my coach Alexis, it was a really easier environment to be in because she actually listened. She would just make sure that we're okay, but also making us better as soccer players and people.
I think that because a lot of girls question what they look like. They could be like, oh, I'm too tall, or I'm always last running. That's not like everybody else, and they probably compare themselves to other people. And I feel like boys do that, but they probably don't do it as often because they don't care as much.
A huge portion of it is definitely what you mentioned about of we kind of have this hyper awareness of our surroundings and what's going on, how our bodies are growing, what we look like when we're running. We're always looking at the person next to us, and like you said, boys don't really care. They may have those thoughts, but I think in the back end of their head, they're like, well, I'm the greatest, and it can't be anyone past me. I think when I was growing up, a huge part of me continuing in my sports was kind of that body image thing, oh, I want to look a certain way, and if I keep playing sports, then I'll look a certain way. And another half of my friends were like, well, I don't really look like you. So I don't see why I would go into volleyball or basketball, lacrosse even. And I think it's interesting that that plays a huge role because no matter what your body kind of looks like, it's able. And I think that's what needs to be emphasized overall amongst girls sports. I have girls on the team right now that are oh, well, I'm not as tall, I'm not as strong. And I always kind of remind them not yet, right? You're gonna get there at some point, whether it's when you're 18, whether it's when you're 40, whether it's when you're 70. I mean, my grandmother was playing golf until she was 90, and I used to be amazed because I can't stand out on a golf course, you couldn't pay me. But I think that statistic is really huge, and I think it's very important. I think also girls come with another level of maturity where they see that things are finite. You said you wanted to play professional soccer, and I bet half the other girls on our team wouldn't even have that thought. And I think it's about realizing that there's more for you in sports than there is in other spaces. But I think all interests are important as well.
I'll give you a simple example. I have to have conversations sometimes with parents to go and buy a sports bra because they don't realize something so simple as a sports bra. The girls are running and they're holding themselves here. I was reading the self-confidence, the body confidence thing, and one thing that made me do was open up and look up what's the damage of not wearing a sports bra with sports. And I learned that it messes up a lot of the stretching. You could have stretching, you could have damage, future damage, and it slows people down. I've seen it. So I think it's just so important that, one of the things that it said is the bra has to be as important as the cleats and as the shin guards. And for females, it's so true because a lot of people don't think about that.
I think it makes sense because some girls look at other people and be oh, she looks so good in her uniform, why can't I look like that?
And we've had a couple of kids that have played, and sometimes I hear from my kids, oh, in gym class, this boy said something to this girl and she doesn't want to play now because, she's not as good because the boy said she's not as good. So I think all that stuff makes a big difference.
I also feel even they make comments about their shorts and their practice shirts. They're these shorts are so ugly, they're so long. And yes, the sleeves are ridiculous. I agree with you there. But I think sometimes I have these moments of it's kind of who cares what you look like? But at some point you do have to accept that it does matter. When they want to take a picture after a game, when they want to take a TikTok you know, after a win or after a loss or after a practice, like they care about their presentation. So I think a portion of that also goes into kind of taking into consideration like what it looks like from the outside, how they feel when they look in the mirror at themselves.
I would tell them that you need to be kind to yourself because realistically your body is not something to be looked at. It's something that helps you live, move, and grow. So you shouldn't really judge your body.
I would say if it's something that you want to do in life, you shouldn't quit or not do something that you love just because someone says something or because you think something. You should definitely keep doing something that you love to do. It doesn't matter what anyone else thinks.
I would say even if like people say stuff about you and like your body, not to listen to them, because if you love like what you're doing, nothing should stop you.
Ooh, that's a hard one. I think my first piece of advice would be just to listen. I think a lot of times, nowadays especially with the way we interact with each other, people are just waiting to respond. I think it's important to listen first because when you listen, you can hear whether someone wants you to respond or whether they just want you to understand. I would say listen and then just find out individually what motivates them. Something that I struggled with last year is trying to motivate them the way I was motivated, which was kind of like this negative reinforcement. Like, if you don't do this, then like, you're just never gonna be good. And I had to shift my focus into not so much them worrying about what I'm thinking of them as a coach, but so much what they think of themselves and kind of giving them that growth mindset of what do you see in yourself and what do you see as your potential. And then lastly, I would say, just let them know that there is no ceiling.
I think it's important because my friend was telling me about her basketball coach and how he would like call them stupid and say like, are you stupid and stuff? And she said he was the reason that like she quit playing that game.
I think the first thing I would say to someone who's going to coach a girl is to understand that they can do anything the boys could do. That's the first thing. And the second thing is that your words, they matter. Because if you put a girl down, she's not going to feel great coming to practice. But if you can say, hey, let's work on this, let's improve this. Sometimes you see coaches who try to coach like other people. I think people need to just be themselves around the kids. And like you said, you know, listen. I think the most important thing, if I had to say, is just understand that you might be the only person who's so supportive for this kid. And you might make the difference for them.
Life is grabbable by any means. You can reset at any time that you want, at any age, so don't cap off what your potential is.
I'm Gabriella Lombana.
Coach Lisette Lombana.
I'm Kaylee Manzi.
Coach Alexis Tolles.
I'm Mia Lombana.
And this is Between the Posts.